And you said this on that computer?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And it is now 7:30 on the money, so.
7:29, so.
Oh, this computer says 7:30. I don't have a phone.
I don't know why my Apple Watch is 7:29 now.
7:30.
Now it says 7:30 on my phone, so yeah. We'll call the meeting to order. It looks like we're not gonna have the zoning director here tonight. Bruce called me or sent me a text indicating that he's having back problems.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
Being exacerbated by the chairs here. So he's got a.
And these are better than the ones they used to have.
Yeah,
We should have him sit one of those other ones. Maybe they'd be
He's,
better.
got an appointment with his orthopedist or whoever he's doing follow up on that, so he won't be here tonight, and hopefully he can get relief with his back problem. Let's see. As I'll get the agenda out. As I indicated in the email, we have 7 sets of minutes that we needed to deal with, and that's why I asked Scott to delay coming until 8 o'clock, because some of these we have to approve because the zoning has been moved forward, and the trustees, as you I think should be aware, I think I put that in the information I sent out.
Yes.
They scheduled the hearing on the 2 articles 31 and 34 for the 17th. So they received the recommendation from us at a special meeting May the 4th. So they had to have at least 10 days, so they have 11 days. No, how many more than 11, from the 4th to the 17th.
13.
13 days.
Yeah.
So there'd be at least 10 business days in there. That might be what they had in mind.
They're rushing these things through, and there are gonna be public complaints about that.
I was
'Cause
surprised that they would want to do it the way that they're doing it, but that is what they've done. So,
Well, the public can come to the hearing, right?
oh yeah.
Okay,
It's open. It's an open hearing.
then why is it rushed? What makes it rushed?
Well, normally,
They would receive it on their regular meeting schedule and schedule it for the next regular meeting, so that there'd be a month of notification.
so they're just trying to move it
So
along faster.
13 days is a lot different from.
Maybe this is going to
30
become a
days.
new pattern with them.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
But they did schedule a special meeting in order to do that, and I don't know, I wasn't at the 4th meeting. Did you go to that meeting on the 4th, Tom? No, it was a special
No.
meeting.
Who even knew about a special meeting? They put it on the back door. Big deal.
Yeah, they posted it on the back door. I don't know whether yeah, they did. They put it up on the
On the
website.
website.
Did they put it up on the
They did post it on the
sign?
website. So I don't know whether they had
that you could
discussion
read it?
regarding the rationale for doing it this way.
Lack of
That's what we got.
transparency gets to me,
So looking at our.
whether it's them or us or anybody else.
Let's see, is there anyone else join?
No. Actually, it's there too in the waiting room.
Has everybody been admitted? No, there are some people up there.
Yeah, I didn't hear the noise. Have they been sitting there?
I didn't hear any beeps either.
Yeah, normally it notifies me. Woohoo. Jim, since I see that you're on, can you tell us whether or not you can hear us?
Can they hear us?
Oh,
Oh,
maybe we still can't hear them. Are we still having that problem?
can you hear us?
Jim, can you hear us?
Yeah, just now.
It says that he is talking, but we cannot hear him. So for members of the public, we are unable to hear you. Hopefully you can hear us. If you need to comment, please put it into the chat.
There is somebody in the administration team.
So
that
I
can
don't know
fix
what
that.
has happened that we've lost our audio capabilities, but That continues to be a problem.
So again, hopefully you can hear us. We cannot hear you. If you have something to say,
I'm
add
glad
it in
they
the
can
chat.
hear us. So whatever the issue is, it might get resolved. I hope so.
Got some chat coming up there.
What about,
It's even worse since we can't read mics.
have you got
There's nothing here.
microphone array? Yeah, that's the one we always have been using. the
Oh, maybe
microphone
Steve can
array.
fix it.
Well, here comes our
Maybe
tech
Steve
expert.
can
Maybe,
hear us
maybe he
via
knows.
chat, but we're having the same issue that Steve could not fix last week. So we've got the same problem if you want to try again, Steve, but alrighty, there we go. So just continue to chat.
Okay, well, let's continue to move forward. We've got to make sure that we get the minutes approved for the hearings that we held. But the other minutes, if we have to, we could delay. Let's see. Let's go on. April 3rd. Are these minutes? I mean, it'll take us a couple, 3 minutes to read through each one of them. So this one, I think you guys put in, you had made your suggestions earlier on this one. So let's see. Is there anything on here that's missing?
See that?
Want the deep lights on, or you want me to turn it?
Oh, you
Let's
can
give
turn
it
it
a
off. Thank you.
I had a few things on April 3rd that I did not get to ahead of time. So
Well, then let's get those in there if we can.
page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph down. Miss Lewis stated that she and Mr. Cannon did a walkabout. Other Mike.
Page 2. Yeah, it should have been Mr. Cannon. I changed that too.
Oh,
Instead of Mr. Capper, I was not there.
Yes.
so anything that we told her before is not on these then?
Well,
you
she
had-
didn't submit it,
Yeah, I didn't submit, but if you
But
said
you did.
you,
but I didn't. My problem was it was not submitted until after she had already prepared this. So, and I also have another thing here in this paragraph where it says Mr. Need stated that there were 2 articles. Wherever that paragraph is, it's moved. Probably because it's 14-inch paper.
Right.
Uh,
This is a problem. What is
paragraph
yours? No, what is yours?
What-
What is what is it again? Mr. Need did what?
Mr. Need stated there were 2 new articles for which.
Page 2, paragraph 2.
Okay. And I
There's 2
I wanted
steps.
to edit that one, so I've got it there because, and it did, I was out, if you recall, I was out of town, I was on vacation. So it was, the only thing that I wanted to do was to identify that the commission needs to set hearings for procedure to apply for a planned unit development, mixed use overlay district and mixed use overlay districts, MU. And I've already told that.
I'm sorry, but it's looking to me like things that have already been told have not.
She did not,
Here.
let me say this again. She did not get that information from me because I did not submit it by the deadline which she had to get this prepared. That's why it's not there.
Okay, but her deadline for the April 3rd ones, she has had time since then fix these. And my problem is that we get these things and there's no good way for us to check to see if our edits have made it into them unless we've printed everything off again. This is just not working well for me.
can I get and suggest Google Docs?
Well, I know if the input is made by the deadline, she gets it in.
Well, I'm not
I
going.
don't have any concern
So we're
whatsoever.
gonna put a new zoning assistant anyway, so.
Right.
I would say let's not spend time worrying about that now, because that is what it is. But again, I think Google Docs could help us solve this problem, because then they're all live. You can chat comments off to the side. They'll all stay updated.
But let's not get into that. We'll never get through these
Okay.
minutes tonight. So I agree with what you're saying, that we need to change the system in some fashion, and what you're saying too, Joni,
Then you
And it
guys
will
can
get
change
changed.
them.
because we're going to get a new assistant, and the new assistant is supposed to be hired with the knowledge up front and a requirement that they attend these meetings. So that goes back to addressing a lot of the issues. And then the other changes that I thought needed to be made, which I have submitted, and I just submitted these to her last week.
So you have had additional things in that paragraph, and I did not write those all down yet.
That this paragraph is the one Mr. Cabot presented, the new article numbering system. I thought we needed to list them somewhere because they weren't listed anywhere that I could find.
Mike, we were talking about getting the minutes for the hearings done.
Yes,
Maybe we should just pass on the 3rd and the 10th
well, if
and come back to them.
I don't disagree with that, Tom, but is there any problem with putting these in? That's all, that's the only change that I would have.
I have not read these because the versions that I got from Brittany wouldn't open up.
Oh.
So
I've never seen these.
you want to put, what you're suggesting that we do then is that we put off dealing with April 3 and April 10.
Anything that's not a hearing.
And May 1st.
Well, we have to do May 1st regular meeting because that's where we acted on the taking action.
You need to do April 24th, right?
Yeah, we have to do those.
Those are hearings.
All right, so April 10th. Take those April 3rd and April 10th out. Now, if those, part of the reason that those didn't get in before is Kendra indicated to me, and she apologized that she did not distribute them and she was supposed to. And again, it's the situation we're in. Okay, so that would mean we'll look at April 24th. I did put my comments in, submitted them to her. Did everyone else get theirs in?
I think for the April 24th, I did.
Okay. Anybody have anything on April 24th?
No.
My changes are in there. Okay. Well, on April 24th, is there a motion then to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of April 24th hearing for proposed Article 31 Plan Unit Development Mixed Use District Overlay Procedures as corrected.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Tom. Okay. All right. Discussion? Is there any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none, then all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the minutes of April 24th are approved, 5-0. All right. Now let's look at wait a minute.
That was
Oh,
31.
that's the
and then we
second
gotta
one,
do
yeah.
34.
We got two of them for April 24th because they were separate hearings, that's why. So the second one is for Article 34. Second set. First set was for Article 31. So the second set for April the 24th is Article 31. Again, I know my comments regarding any potential changes were received and included. Now, any corrections that anyone has? The person's name that I knew for sure, and it got added was Mr. Bryant when he did that via Zoom.
So we don't really know who. I thought Mr. Bryant probably did all of them.
He's not
Just
listed.
any of the ones that dealt with
He's
boundaries.
not listed, is he, as a participant? He should be listed there.
This is Article 34. He's the next to the last one.
Oh, yeah,
And he's the
he did that.
Third.
He did that, yes.
Second
Nice.
paragraph from the
Via
bottom.
Zoom. But oh no, he's there.
I-
Never mind.
yeah.
He's in the list.
But I think he may also have been the one on the last page, the 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph.
A resident asked if there were other districts being proposed. I didn't know who
No,
did that.
the one about clarification on MU boundaries.
A resident asked for clarification on clustered districts. I don't know if he
This
did.
one,
A resident
Fourth
asked for
paragraph.
clarification on the MU boundaries. I don't know if he did that or not. Does anyone know? Was that his?
oh no,
I think it was.
It logically could have been his.
And I think he was also the one who asked how districts were determined.
well, if someone doesn't identify themselves,
But I don't remember him saying anything until he asked the question about should he wait until the regular
Okay.
monthly meeting.
that's for sure.
That, I know
was
for sure
definitely
he
him.
asked that.
Yeah,
So
that's fine.
let's just leave it that way, because like I said, I know for certain he did do that.
But it may behoove us to request every time somebody says something to state their name and address.
Or at
That
least
would
their
be a
name,
good-
if they've signed in, they
Yeah.
have their address, just to give their name.
Yeah, but
before
if
they-
they're on Zoom, we don't.
We don't, if they're on Zoom necessarily. And we don't have it here tonight, so I gotta pass the sheet around to see if we can get. Sorry, sir, I don't know your name. What is your name?
Mike Peacock,
Can you spell that for me, please?
F as in Frank, ITAK.
Oh, yes, I remember you now, Mr. Fetak. You had a zoning change that you brought to us,
Right.
didn't you? Yes. Thank you. And then the other person who's here is
Steve.
Steve Eisenbrand. Do we have anybody online?
Just Jim Steelsmith. Somebody else was trying to get on, but they have,
Okay.
yeah. Had
Jim
technical
via Zoom,
difficulties.
okay. Write it down. All right. So there's no other changes then on April 24th.
I'll move that we accept minutes from the hearing on proposed Article 34 as corrected.
Second,
All right. Is there a second?
second.
Sorry, didn't.
No, that's okay.
pick up on- All right, Virginia seconded. So Tom moved and Virginia second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, motion carries again. 5-0. Okay. And now the next one would be May 1st.
One.
Which May 1st one?
30, Article 31?
Yeah,
Sure.
but should we do, the one that's 2 pages, the regular monthly meeting,
The regular
starting
meeting?
at 7:30 PM.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do the regular monthly meeting. There was a lot that was missing at the beginning and I filled it in. Are there any additional things that need to be added? Joni, I had specifically asked you about adding something because I know that wasn't in
And
there.
I sent her something and I don't see it. But I
Oh,
didn't
no,
send it
because I
until
know you didn't get it.
Sunday,
I saw the message from you, so. it
because
was-
that's when I could get to
It, well, it can you tell us what your proposed changes are so that?
No. I can't.
You don't have a copy of it? You didn't bring it?
Nope,
I have one.
I try not
significant
to print everything.
change.
All right, you have one change,
Don't
huh?
want that.
Yeah, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraph down. Starting, Mr. Need made a motion to receive Article 32. Which is the procedure to apply for. And then mixed use overlay district comes out and a procedure to apply for a clustered residential conservation district.
Wait a minute,
Can you repeat that?
All right,
Article 32 is misidentified.
what should it be?
procedure to
Procedure
apply for,
for a clustered residential conservation district.
CRC.
or a clustered use. Yeah, it says mixed use. It's wrong. With clustered. Residential
Residential
conservation
conservation.
district.
Do you also take that planned unit development?
Yes.
Procedure to apply for a clustered residential conservation district, paren CRCD.
Okay.
Okay,
And then it starts again, and Article 33. Clustered residential conservation district. I don't know if you want to add as per application 2303. And that the hearing be set for May 22nd at 7:35.
I don't think you could use the word per in there.
all right. Clustered residential district. What are we changing in the second part? Article 33, clustered residential conservation district.
I was saying as per application HTZ.
As, oh, add the word per before application?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessary to put per in there, because it was application HDZZ.
Yeah.
2303.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it may not be needed. Okay. Do you want it added, Tom? Doesn't
Hey,
matter.
hey.
I don't think we have to have it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we get Article 32 described correctly.
Yeah. So it's Article 32, clustered residential conservation district. Is that correct?
Procedure to apply for a clustered residential conservation district.
Well, that's Article 32.
Yes,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Article 33.
no,
Because the as comes after both of them.
yes, yes.
Okay,
They were both HCZC 2303 though, right?
right.
Yes,
Okay.
So The only change is in the first one, procedure to apply for a clustered residential conservation district, CRCD, close, overlay district. And Article 33, clustered residential district, no change, as application, and then it goes on, no change. Okay, I think I got it, because up this copy I'll give her.
I have another thing. The second paragraph from the bottom, where Tom made the motion, it says I seconded it. I don't think I seconded that. Does anybody recall?
You were
I'm-
here.
I was here, but I'm pretty sure that was not me.
It might have been me.
I think it was Virginia.
Well, she probably was picking up.
We sound too similar
We-
on microphones.
All right, so instead of Ms. Hopper, it would be Ms. Lewis.
Okay.
Okay.
And Brittany's just trying to deflect any public complaint.
Well, I was just thinking, I was like, that was not me. I definitely second closing the meeting.
I think you like to do
I
that.
thought I seconded that.
Actually, it does look like you saying that. Wow, you were on it.
All right,
Well, this was our late one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
10:06.
okay,
I was too tired by
all
that
right,
point, the second motion.
so, we
I
need a
move-
motion on this one then.
I move that the minutes of the regular monthly meeting on May 1st, 2023. Approved as corrected.
Second,
All right,
That
it
was
was moved by
Virginia.
Tom and seconded by Virginia.
Virginia seconding.
So we're making sure we get that on the record. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor then please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed, no. All right, the minutes are approved as corrected. 5-0.
Uh-oh.
3 minutes to go.
Uh-oh.
All right, and now the May 1st hearing. It's
31, do we start?
anybody find anything in the May 1st, Article 31?
Nothing.
Nope.
All right, and a motion to approve minutes for this hearing.
I think these are probably as corrected because we all sent, or at least a couple of us sent are correct.
As corrected, yeah. There were corrections sent from the original one.
Yeah.
That she distributed to us, so. Okay, I
make a motion that we approve the May 1st minutes for Article 31 Plan Unit Development Mixed Use Overlay, Mixed Use District Overlay Procedures.
all right, thank you,
As correct.
Virginia, and we have the second.
Second.
Brittany.
Okay, Brittany, got that one.
Yes.
Brittany seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing no comments, and we'll take a call or a motion, or rather a vote on this one. Please signify approval of the motion by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. All right, the motion carries 5-0. Minutes are approved as corrected. All right, and now hearing minutes for Article 34. Close to 8 o'clock, we might make it.
Scott's not here.
No, he's not here yet.
The only suggested correction I have is on page 2.
Page 2.
1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth paragraph, beginning on page 10, the commission decided to remove the word barrel. As in beer barrel, and that sentence should end. Be removed from each place it was mentioned in the article and add "and" in the definitions.
Place it is mentioned in the article and from definitions.
Sorry, didn't get to keep your barrel roof.
The title of that was the overlay definitions, correct? The document.
Yes, yes.
So, and from the overlay definitions.
But weren't those definitions gonna be,
They will be once they are approved, but they are currently a standalone.
thank you.
Been paying attention.
Hmm?
You've been paying attention.
Some of the time.
Okay, any other corrections in these minutes?
Some of the time I check the monitor to see if the baby's sleeping.
Hearing none.
The barrel thing is also in that 1, 2, 3, 4, that fifth paragraph, and also in the third from the bottom.
Oh, yeah, this list reminded the commission to remove barrel under the roofing section.
And from the overlay
It's just
definition.
a small language change into business. Under the business large retail definition.
Since we added, and in the overlay definitions in the first part, we should probably put it under this one, under the roofing section. and
Of the
from
overlay
def-
definition.
Oh, if there was anything in the overlay definitions, okay.
No, under the roofing section of the overlay definitions.
Remove barrel under the roofing section and from the overlay definitions. Just like we did up here.
Okay, add that after under
Yeah.
the roofing section. Okay.
That
And
sounds like Scott. Oh.
Then I will move that we accept the minutes of the hearing on Article 34, mixed use overlay districts, was held on May 1st, 2023 as corrected.
Virginia will second.
thank you, Virginia.
Just refer to myself in the third person.
Yes,
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the May 1st minutes for the hearing article on for proposed Article 34. All those in favor will be signified by saying aye.
Okay.
All opposed, say no. All right, the minutes are approved as corrected.
Austin,
All right, with that, then, we decided to postpone discussion on, the April 1st or 3rd, rather, April 3rd and April 10th minutes to a future meeting. So we'll come back to those, at our next meeting down the road. You can look, since you have them now, you can look at them in print before our next meeting. We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Are we agreeing with Scott?
So we've approved
13.
5 sets. Including the minutes for the hearings on the 24th, regular meeting on the 1st, and the hearings on the continuation of the hearings on the 1st.
Put all the way through it.
Okay. Thank you very much. And now we are moving forward to reports. The zoning director is not here. There's no report from him. Is there anything specifically that any member of the commission needs to report on? Nope. Very good. And then we'll go on under old business. We're going to continue our review of the Harlem Township zoning resolution, Article 13. We have a copy, Scott, the one that you had sent and we distributed or we forwarded, I should say, to Holly Matai is the one that we all have copies of. So, Scott, coming back to you now, how do you want to proceed in terms of looking at this, going through this?
Well, I was gonna ask you that, I mean. Do
That
we go
since
through-
I missed April the 10th,
Right,
Mm-hmm.
so it felt like we got all the way through, I mean, we did,
got
but
all the way through the document.
then do we
So,
go, well,
uh,
yeah, that article, so do we? Go through that again a second time as a second?
I
look,
don't
or
know
do we-
whether folks have have gone through it, and if they've got any comments they want to make about any particular section or questions. The one thing that I would want to bring up would be under section 1307, we've got it included in here, procedures to apply for the conservation subdivision standards. And for the clustered residential conservation district, those procedures are going to be set up separately. And this was provided to Holly so that she could utilize it as she went through and developed those procedures. So question, I guess, that we have to come back to, in my mind, we need to make a determination about whether we keep the procedures independent. We already have one set that is being proposed that we're going to be holding a hearing on the 22nd. And then we're going to be moving forward. So
I think our procedures for this one were a little different than what we're doing for the new ones.
they're different for the certainly for the mixed use overlay.
Yeah.
And the clustered ones are the ones that I'm referring to now, not the overlay.
But Joni is right, that procedures, if you pull a procedure out of the PRCD and match it up against the procedures in Article 32, the CRCD, they're not parallel. They're not the same. They don't cover the same topics. They don't
Right.
deal with things the same way. And and I think if we leave it that way, then there's no way of using one procedure for both articles, 13 and 33. And I'm still of the opinion that we should try to have a single procedure. So it's easier for us to manage it. It's easier for us to explain what we're doing to the public, and it's easier for the public to understand. There's one procedure, we're dealing with conservation districts. I was gonna put together a full abstract of how the two the two procedures matched up. I got sick last week and I only got a chance to do a top level view of it. And I only have 4 copies of it, so here, if you can share that. You can have this, I didn't send that to you. We'll share that maybe. If Joni and Brittany can share
We'll
that.
pass that one down.
This one's. Okay. So what I tried to do is to say, where do the procedures start? And that's in yellow. So we have Article 13 in the top left-hand corner, Article 31 in the middle, and Article 32 in the top right-hand corner. Those are the three articles that deal with procedures. Starting in section 1307 is where the procedure in the PRCD actually starts. And from there on down, I try to compare across the spreadsheet where the articles are the same and where they're not. And I don't think there's any comment. There's certainly in Article 31, which is for the mixed use district, there really doesn't have to be the same because it's a standalone article for the mixed use districts. For the one on the left and the one on the right, they should be, in my mind, if not identical, very similar. There's no reason for them not to be. They should cover the same ground. Not having that, not being feeling well enough last week to really go through it in detail, I still have some basic questions about things like
Well, if we reach a decision that we're going to have the procedures developed as a separate document, or a separate article, I should say, that applies to clustered residential and to planned residential, then I don't, to the extent that I haven't gone through either, as you're saying, but then section 1307 in this article would simply be a sentence saying referred to. So we don't have to go through and discuss how they're alike and how they're different tonight. If we can reach a decision that we want them to be a separate article, then yes, then we should work on bringing them back together and make them match up, because they're going to be the same procedures will be utilized for both of those articles.
yes, and I agree. The first decision I think tonight is whether we're going to pull it out and have a standalone article for the procedures or not. And once we reach that decision, then I think the procedures, whether it's embedded or not, should follow the same track.
I
In
don't
my-
disagree.
in my-
That's exactly what I want to try to accomplish. Yes.
And right now, I would say they clearly don't.
But we've had, the PRCD is already in place. Why then didn't we make the new one to mirror the current one
Because
with
there,
whatever
yeah,
changes?
because there are certain parts of the new one, the CRCD, which were improvements in the procedure. So for example,
There had to be some changes
I
made.
mean, some
because-
changes, but it seems like they're like grossly
I mean,
different.
you do have 37 different items in the prepare application and development plan in 32, but only 26 items in Article 13.
yeah, and I did not have a chance to closely match up which ones were the same and which ones were not.
I mean, there's 11 different is a significant.
Yeah.
amount.
And you also have things like the trip generation and connectivity memo, which was added to both the mixed use and to the CRCD articles at the request of the Delaware County Engineer's Office, so that they get first word on where the roads are going to be. And how a new development, simply based on its size, is going to have an impact on the roadways in the township. They want that done before we do anything else. And so that was written into, specifically at their request, that was written into Article 32 and Article 31. And I think it needs to be somehow included in Article 13, or if we're pulling it out, it will automatically happen if Article 32 becomes the procedures for Article 13. But it's that. There's also a question of why we have 3203 fees and 3105 fees. And I haven't read the details close enough to, but why in those two articles and not in 13? I would think fees would belong somewhere else, not in the procedure, but
Yeah, I thought we had talked about anytime we saw a fee saying per the decided fee schedule, because it can change yearly, so I do not think those should be in.
Well, not the specific amounts,
Yeah,
but you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, just
And
referencing.
I know that the reason that that whole big paragraph was added regarding fees was on the advice of legal counsel to Holly, that wasn't in there, and they strongly recommended that it be added.
And so I think it can be added to 13, but in the same vague sense of, just refer to the fee schedule.
Yeah, because they are adopted annually by
Yeah.
the trustees. Well, let's come back to the, I guess, the big issue and see if we can have discussion that focuses just on that for the moment. To reach a determination as to whether we want these procedures to be indeed created as one set of procedures that could be applicable to both PRCD and to clustered. And it would mean that we do have to pull them together in terms of when we would adopt the Article 32, the Article 32 then we'd have to keep in mind that Article 32 would be applicable to both the PRCD and the CRCD. And so the question that I want to try to address is whether we will have them create a separate article to be applicable to both. Well, right now we've got two, whether there'll be others that'll come down the road in the future. I guess if there are, then the same procedures would be utilized for those. So I want to put that up forward as an issue for us to discuss and reach a decision on tonight. One way to do that is to put a motion on the floor that we would have a
Can we first ask Scott what other townships are doing?
well, we can have a motion and still have discussion. But yes, we certainly will ask Scott what other townships are doing. I think it's an appropriate question. So if you want, go ahead, Scott, you can respond to it now.
Well, nobody else is dealing with this because everybody's straight district has the state districts have a procedure like you guys do. And then each plan district has it within its own district. So, I mean, this is the first attempt to pull it out. And it's funny, I mean, to end up pulling out the procedures to make it simple and then end up with 2 or 3 similar but different.
Yeah, well, early on, we
They're gonna
did
be
have a
different.
discussion about doing that, and at the time, I recall the discussion, and certainly I thought it was a good idea. Not everyone on this commission did at that point in time. So we're still dealing with that. Do we want to make that change, as Scott's now pointing out, that we may be the leader and stepping forward to do that if no other townships are doing it?
The outlier, not the leader.
Yeah, but well, yeah, you can interpret it either way, but I mean, I think it's a good idea. Because I might have brought it up before it came up, or at least I was thinking of it before it was mentioned here, because I had been thinking about trying to pull out the process separately instead of having it embedded in each district, especially when it's just plain plan districts. It should be the same. I mean, it is basically the same. And the problem with making a little change here and there is that then you forget to do it over. You don't make that change in the commercial, and then you get used to doing it in residential, and then you finally get a project in commercial, and it's like, oh, you can't ask them for that because that was
Never updated.
Yeah, never updated in all of them. So,
But is the procedure going to be the same in commercial as in residential?
well,
And
and again, I don't think I would ever try to do as many different things as you all are doing right now.
Well,
But I think that it would. I mean, it's the same procedure. If it's a planned district, you're still asking to have it rezoned. You still have those windows of time like a straight district. So you're having that 20 to 40 day window and then you're voting and then you're sending it to the trustees and they're voting. So a regular planned district is kind of the same process. You could have, there may be requirements that you might have with a parentheses to say, if applicable,
Yeah, well,
that's for another day.
that was, I think that was something, I'll go back to Tom and, well, actually, we also have a second member of the strategic planning committee here. But that was something I think that was discussed, and the decision was made that there would be two sets of procedures because of the need for requirements for the mixed use kinds of districts where there would be retail involved. But there would be one set of procedures that would address those, and then a second set of procedures that would be for the planned residential districts. That's why we've got Article 31, which we have already addressed and moved forward to the trustees. And now we're talking about potentially, well, we have the hearing scheduled for Article 32. That will be on the 22nd. So that, Scott, rather than having one set for Harlem Township of procedures for all planned districts, we're looking at having two sets. One that would be primarily developed to deal with the mixed use where the retail is involved. And then the second one being for the planned conservation districts where there's not going to be any retail. And because of the differences in, as you just mentioned, you maybe have to, if you had one set, you'd have to have some things that would be a parenthetical note that said when applicable. In this case, we wouldn't have to do that because we'd have two sets, one for the residential, conservation residential, and the other one for the mixed use. So coming back to the question then, yeah, if we're going to have them be separate, then they do need to match up. And I would prefer to have it that way personally than to have each time we have a new article dealing with residential that we would be putting the procedures to apply within each one of those. So with that said, if we can't come to consensus on this, just having discussion about it, then we need to put a motion on.
I think I was the only one who questioned pulling all the procedures out, thinking it was easier just to tell somebody, look at article such and such instead of article such and such plus article something else for the procedure. I mean, we had Joe looking at all kinds of things because our PRCD was not real clear about which
Exactly
things to look for. We had him going to several different articles to pull stuff out from, and having it all in one to me is easier than having procedures different from final what you want it to look like. But I think I was the only one who saw it that way.
Where you're coming from, I think it is more straightforward for the public, but I think in terms of sustainability of keeping consistency with our procedures and not having to, change multiple different articles for one thing, I think it's the better route in the long term to pull it out. Because we are going to have more changes. And then every time we have a change, we have to change 10 different articles for one thing. That I don't think that makes sense, and that's not sustainable.
Every time you change an article, it's subject to referendum.
Yeah.
Right. So
The changes, yes.
Yeah, so if we have our procedures separate, the chances of having a referendum on procedures are a lot less likely than.
Oh, don't ever count on it.
well,
That's a good
So-
point. Don't count on it.
still at least then you don't
But I
have
think,
to
the
subject
You're not
multiple
putting your overlay district in jeopardy to change the
to change your
procedure.
procedure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think it is the right move, despite the fact that maybe it makes it a little bit more confusing to the public. As long as we're clear about our direction and
And
where
again,
things
if
are
you're-
located.
If you're doing a conservation district, hypothetically, you have enough knowledge that having the procedures separately isn't going to throw you for a huge loop. You hypothetically. It's asking a lot. but-
Well, and that was one thing that we talked about. The fact that this overlay already exists, the one that we just worked on. And I don't know the timing of what you guys are gonna end up, how this is all gonna go through, because if you were depending on the approval of something that set the procedures because you decided we're not gonna put the procedures here, and then that somehow failed while this had started, then you're gonna have to, and that's not a problem, I guess, to just rescind, since it's you, not a developer doing it, you can just rescind. And then kind of start over, because then suddenly the procedures that you thought you were depending on got, or vice versa, got messed up, and now you have to, oh, maybe since we're just changing something we already have, we better pull the procedures back into this. And maybe that's a concern to have for later and not.
Well, and when it comes to taking this forward, we're not looking to take it forward at the same time that we're taking the other articles forward in terms of getting them to the trustees for approval. So if we have the procedures for the residential conservation district separate, and they do,
They should be moving
Get
faster
approved.
than this.
yeah, then it would be approved. And before we would then bring this forward in terms of the changes that we would propose. So the reference to Article 32 in the document, that would not create an issue because they would have already been approved. Now, on the other hand, the revisions we then are doing in Article 13, if it gets referendum and thrown out, then we just come back to using the existing document that we have, the existing article. The existing article doesn't get thrown out.
Right.
Only the new one is the one that
Yeah.
doesn't move forward.
But in creating the new procedures, I want to make sure that they do line up with what we already have.
Correct.
we need to
I
make sure
agree.
they're
I'm not
consistent.
disagreeing with that at all.
So I think the consensus then is we want to pull the procedures out. Holly is still working on the procedures for the CRCD, Holly and strategic planning. When that's happening,
Well,
The
we've
strategic
got the
planning is
first
done.
draft.
they're done with it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what, I don't,
So I guess basically then when we are looking through that first draft, we should try to
match it up.
match it up to this.
Correct.
So I think basically then we can sort of put this on hold if the decision is we're going to combine the two.
Not exactly. I would say even if we're gonna pull 1307 out of the existing Article 13. And simply refer to Article 32 at some point in the future. There are probably, I'm sure there are other changes to Article 13. Other than in the procedure section.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying put the procedure section on hold until we have,
Except that. I think we need to look at the procedure section in detail and what does it ask the developer to do? And in our experience with this diner development, what worked and what didn't work? And how do we marry that up to Article 32? Do we want to leave stuff in? Do we want to take stuff out? Because if we leave it in, it's going to be in both. And if we want to take it out, it's not going to be anywhere. Right?
yeah.
If we take it out of 32, then it's essentially coming out of 13 also.
So I
So-
guess then can we do a quick run through just so we've all seen it and have been able to ask Scott questions? And then when we do our hearing on the procedures, we will have at least all seen it and can go through more.
I
So you
think
wanna-
we have gone through. It was Scott,
You want to do a quick run through 32 or?
I'm just saying, no, of the procedures here,
13.
so that when we get to 32 on our meeting next week,
22nd.
Yeah.
We already gone
We,
through
we
this whole
have,
thing. though?
we have,
Yeah.
yes, we have already done that with Scott. And we did make some changes, and I think they're in this version that we just got.
So then at that rate, you don't have 32, do you?
I received it, but I didn't have time to. Let the
Yeah.
CRC
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Procedures for
The,
the
uh,
flip
CRC.
through it once, but that's all that I've had. To
Yeah.
tackle.
and your PRs or your regional planning meeting is on the 25th. That's why, we'll have feedback from you when we have a follow-up continuation of the hearing to May the 1st. Or I'm sorry, not to the 1st, but to June. June 5th, is it? Or no, it's May 30th.
Yeah,
What did we say?
the day after Memorial.
The
Day.
day after Memorial Day. It's May 30th. Is when we've had that follow-up on our calendars, but it's not, we won't know that for certain until we have our first hearing, and then we have to continue it. But the expectation is we're not going to get it done in one hearing, in one meeting.
Yeah, but to Virginia's point, let me walk slowly through the spreadsheet where there's good parallel procedures. So if we start on 1307A,
Well, let me make sure. I
Okay,
mean,
okay,
Virginia
you
made
wanna
the
do-
statement. I just
yeah.
want to make sure that
you're right,
Um,
you're right.
at this point, I want to ask the question this way. Is there anyone who objects at this point for the procedures for us to move forward with the idea that we're going to have a separate set of procedures as standalone, and they will be Article 32, and it will be applicable to all of the conservation residential districts? We have consensus on that, so we're in
Right,
agreement.
You want a motion on it?
A motion let's just make sure that's a good idea, just so that we're clear.
So moved.
What are you moving?
You put it very well.
That we have, that we basically are agreeing to utilize Article 32 as the procedures for all conservation residential conservation districts. There's a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. So now we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the motion
I'm just
carries.
gonna abstain from that one.
Okay.
Oh, you want to abstain? Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'm
can
gonna
abstain. All right, so the motion carries 4-0, one abstention. That's for the record.
Because I have not
And the
looked
one,
at 32 at
the
all.
one abstention is Joni Manson. Okay, so that's where we are. Let's go ahead, Tom, with your idea in terms of going forward with that.
So if we look at the spreadsheet, if we take 1307A, existing features, site analysis map and conceptual development plan. At least at that level, it's mirrored by 32.01A. They have the same headline. I don't know, but the text is the same. So we're starting with a site analysis and a conceptual development plan. And I think from prior conversations, we're all comfortable with that type of approach, at least starting there with site analysis and a conceptual development plan. Second step, an on-site walkabout. It's the same on both. Third step, a preliminary review meeting. The details, I'm not sure, are exactly the same, but it's at least as a step, it's the third step in the process in both cases. Then we have the trip generation and connectivity memo in the CRCD, but not in the PRCD. And I would think that given conversations that Holly has had with the Delaware County Engineer's Office, that it should be in, it should be,
Well,
it should cover both.
Also with what Joe has been told with the Steiner development.
Yeah, and in fact, yes, because the
They're
internal
asking to move
roadways have
it.
changed.
Yeah.
And if that had been done up front, then it wouldn't be a change at the last minute. It
Yeah.
would be, you got to put it here. Okay, we'll put it there. So I guess I'm comfortable leaving trip generation and connectivity memo as a step before a formal hearing that would apply to both PRCDs and CRCDs.
But insofar as any changes that we're looking at making with the PRCD at this time, the only thing that we're looking at doing there would be that section 1307 would be reduced to the one sentence.
Yes, yeah, I'm just looking at what's in 1307 in terms of how does that match up with what's in Article 32.
Okay, but if we're going to be talking about changes in Article 32, we need to wait until the hearing.
It's not really changes in Article 32. We okay with that applying to the PRCD as well? Is there any reason that it shouldn't apply to the PRCD? And I'm saying we would have been better off if it had applied.
Okay, if we go through and limit any comments to just that question that you just said, that is, would this apply to the PRCD? Yes or no, but not get into detailed discussion about what's actually in Article 32.
I'm comfortable with that.
Because we can't do that. We've already got a hearing scheduled to go through the
Yep.
details of the article.
Yep.
That's fine.
All right.
So that question is I guess still on the table. Are we okay with having the trip generation and connectivity procedure as part of our procedure?
Well,
Yes,
Scott,
I-
is there any reason, Scott, that would not, from your perspective, be appropriate?
No, that whole thing, I just, I wasn't part of those discussions and I was surprised when I saw how detailed that is. And I ran it by someone at the county engineer's office. Especially this third party thing where, I mean, Orange hired a third party reviewer. They were trying to, I think, stop a Sheets, which everybody having an experience with Sheets. It created an awkward issue with the third party, which I think came back, and after they spent all this money, the third party, I mean, a traffic study doesn't, I think the public wants a traffic study to shut things down sometimes,
Yeah.
or we'll show them, we'll get that traffic study and it'll prove that this is a bad idea. And I don't think that's what traffic studies do. And that's not necessarily what this is intended for. That tends to be what, people think about, but all it says is, yeah, you need a turn lane because you have this much traffic and therefore this road, you have to do a left-hand turn lane and you might have to do a right-hand, that sort of thing. I will say we're usually involved in the connectivity conversations. Just a regional planning, just because there's no set standard for knowing really how much acreage to connect to. But I mean, it's already kind of gone through the beginning of the process, so I don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
but still in general, I mean, you're in favor of having a traffic analysis done early on rather than.
Yeah, I keep trying to separate in my mind the difference between an overlay and a rezoning. It seems like a lot to put on a developer before they even know they have approval. If it is an overlay, then they're just trying to prove that they can meet the standards. They're not. And so I guess it's reasonable to ask them to do that, because usually that's a whole additional cost that until you know how many units you're going to get, you don't necessarily want to do that. You don't want to pay for that.
But that memo, is that done at the county expense or at the developer's expense?
Developer. But
The county does it for the
developer reviews. So the developer hires somebody to do the study, and then there are inputs that go in. And so they say, we're going to use this standard for this type of use. And we're using these numbers for existing traffic and these numbers for projecting traffic. And then county engineer staff has to review that and say, we approve the way you're moving forward. And then they go and they do the study that's, 35 pages and has all these undecipherable to me tables in the back that have these bar charts and curves. And if you curve the right way and the X is in the right spot, then you have to do a turn. That's
All right.
layman's way of describing it. So, I mean, it's kind of a back and forth. The county engineer has to agree to the standards they're going to use, and then the developer pays for the study. And then it eventually comes back to the county engineer's staff and they say, okay, these numbers look like they were together honestly, and so we approve it.
But I wasn't sure whether you were saying that that's a lot, a large burden, financial burden to put on the developer before they get their overlay district, or
In a regular rezoning, it's a lot to ask before they know that they're rezoned,
But these are both
but
overlays.
these are overlays. So
Yeah.
you're saying
Me.
it's
Scott, I
okay.
just want to make sure your microphone is
Yeah.
on.
the little,
It's
it
on.
says on
Okay,
if it's
good,
hot
'cause,
up. It
yeah,
is.
that becomes important for the minutes
Yeah,
as well as the audience, if there's anybody out there.
Jim.
there's no way I can tell from here, I guess.
Okay, so the trip generation and connectivity memo, we may have to massage the wording a bit, but it's okay where,
I think so.
it's okay where it is.
Having said all that, sure.
All right, the next paragraph that's new or difference is, I know is gonna be the fees.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and understand why Holly wrote those in there, so for now, I don't know.
Yeah,
Did you-
I can't give you a detailed explanation other than the fact what I've already stated
Yeah.
about. This was inserted after she had consultation with her attorney.
Is it her attorney or is it someone at the township?
That was not, it was
It was Holly.
Roche's,
Okay.
that law firm.
Yeah, I mean, this looks really similar and I didn't compare it, but I think Liberty's either overlays or actually rezonings have a big section that this kind of looks like. And they're, I mean, in fairness, your current one has and fees. I mean, there is a reference to fees, but
Mhm.
obviously not.
Yeah.
Not
A
this kind
separate
of
section.
detail,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it almost seems like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that takes some time to read now, but I just wonder if that's something that applies to any fees collected by the zoning commission.
Based on a quick glance, yes.
Yeah.
This could go at the beginning of our zoning resolution. If you're applying for anything ever, there are fees you must pay.
It seems just very general.
Yes.
Yeah. So it might not belong in the procedures.
It might trim it up a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's half a page.
All right,
Yeah, this was definitely written by legal counsel.
Yes.
It was not written by Holly.
all right. And moving further down, we have 1307E, prepare application and development plan. As Joni pointed out, one has 26 items. The other has A through PP, which I don't know is probably closer to 50. And the CRCD has 37. So at some point, somebody in good health is gonna have to wade through those and see what's in one and not in the other, or is it just duplication? And that really is where Joe Clay spent a huge amount of his time trying to, is it gonna diverge from this development standard or not? And this is real, I mean, we can call this a development plan, but it's really the development standard in a way.
Well, so I'm looking at I'm looking at 31.
Yeah,
Luckily, I thought it'd be worth bringing up. So yes, 3104 is A through D, but then 3106 is development plan contents. And that's A through,
Well, that is different than the CRCD, and the PRCD and the CRCD have the same, or hopefully will have the same procedures, whereas
Yeah.
31 applies to 32.
30, it applies to 34. So I would say,
but I think if you highlight 1307E.
yeah,
And then you go down and highlight 3106, I think those are. You merge those, that's how it's not that there's more required, it's just that it's in a different place.
well, I would look at 3107E versus 3204
Yes, sure,
as the,
which that's what I didn't bring yet, so.
yeah, and I think that those two are at whatever point we close the door on this, it's either in or out. And why there's some in one and not in the other, and where they overlap and where they don't, I don't know. But I think that's gotta be at somebody's weekend.
Well, there's gonna have to be a detailed analysis that we go through as
Yeah.
we're getting,
Yeah.
completing our hearing process.
Yes. Now, 1307F, public hearing as a separate part of the procedure is not anywhere else.
I caught that when I sat here, but there has to be a reference to, maybe it's just using a different term.
What?
So, the public hearing is 1307F.
That's
There's nothing.
F under 13.
There's nothing
Yeah.
across.
Well, I think it's under 3107.
Yeah,
After receipt of the complete application development plan required fees, the zoning commission shall schedule a public hearing. So it's not its own section, but it is.
but I'm not even looking, I would look at 30, oh, you don't have 32.
Right.
32.
Put this in.
32. The application.
The 3205 is where the zoning commission and township board of trustees action.
So it's
But where's it say anything about?
public hearing, 3205 first sentence, but we're not really allowed to discuss that yet.
Are you looking at 32 or are you looking at 13 for a public hearing? The public hearing is under 1307F
Yeah, and
under on Article 13.
1307,
F.
1307 A B C D E, we'll go on. 26 F, public hearing. And it doesn't say much, one sentence.
And that.
But
it's
is that
just a difference
the
in
kind of
title.
verbiage that belongs in? I mean, in the procedure, if not, we'll take it out of, we'll just lose it, we'll edit it out. Or if it belongs, we'll make sure it shows up in 32. Anyway, it's that sort of thing, action by the Township Zoning Commission, 1307G. Zoning Commission and Trustee Board, a Township Board of Trustees action, 3107, 3405. So there's kind of commonality between all three articles. Whether the wording is the same, I don't know, and whether there's any reason to action by the Township Zoning Commission G, and then action by the Township Trustees in H. Should those be separated out, wherein what we're writing now, they're all mashed together? Is there any reason to? I don't know. I really don't.
Well, the zoning commission only makes recommendations, the township trustees actually make the decisions, so
Right. And
that is a difference.
the zoning and under 3205, it's stated pretty much the same way as it is under G for the Township Zoning Commission. So it's a matter of just the way that it's formatted. But the
yeah,
information, the concept is there in both documents.
and I guess the easier question is, should we separate it out into two sections, or?
Well, that'll be a decision that, yes, we will have to address that, but it's there
Yeah.
in both.
Yeah. We get to the condition of approval and the criteria for approval, and the effect of approval. Are those important in the, I mean, I know that in the, there are conditions of approval or conditions for approval, are economic development districts and NCAs. That they have to be set up and in effect before you can pull down an overlay district.
I wouldn't want that for just the regular PRCD.
I agree.
That's an important distinction. And what would be the difference between a PRCD of 100 acres, no sewers, and a CRCD of 100 acres with sewers? I mean, one's going to be denser because of this availability of sanitary sewers. with more houses, can you require an NCA on one and not consider it on the other? I have no idea.
Well, the criteria for approval in Article 32, and Section 3207, those criteria are not currently in the PRCD.
Correct.
So we're looking at a lot of additional kinds of things here.
Yes.
But again, we can make we'll be making a determination about that as we go through the process of reviewing these procedures. Do we want to keep it in or not? Right now, that's not a decision we're making or addressing.
No, I'm just looking at it and saying, is this something we want to consider? When we 1307I subdivision plat, I assume there has to be a subdivision plan at some point. It's got to be written into the procedure.
Yeah, and
So-
under here, it's under 13.08. In the Article 32,
32.
plat
yeah,
required is
yeah.
3208.
Yeah, and here it's 1307I. So there's kind of a parallel plat required verbiage.
Yeah,
Zoning certificate, and development plan approval period may be all the same, even though the headings are not the same. Extension and modification of development plan, we have extension and amendment, extension and amendment. So again, the wording may be the same, it just hadn't divided up the same way. And then administrative reviews is in both. So
well, the information, yeah, when you get to looking at 3208 and comparing it to 1307I.
Yeah.
They're very similar. I mean, I haven't gone through it in detail, but it's all there. It's definitely in both.
So that would be, I mean, if your staff is going to go through 32 at some point in the next couple of weeks, then that would be helpful if the comments that they make on what we're proposing on 32 and how that would feed back into the PRCD as well. Because we took, I mean, some of your comments on the mixed use, I mean, we found some, a couple of major errors where we referred to the wrong section or article. I mean, that was, that was important things to fix.
Important to catch.
Yeah, yeah, and some of the changes in wording from, private road to private drives and nursing home facilities. It sounds like small things, but it's important to get it right. And some of the things that we considered, we just considered not, but I think that the input is always valuable. So.
Just going back to the JED and NCA, I mean, I was surprised when that first started getting put in some codes, and I know that Rogers and Johnson worked with Berkshire on that, so apparently it's a thing that you can do. Sometimes I think it's odd that it's a requirement, and that you have to do it first. I mean, no application shall be, funny that it says no real property shall be included in an application unless it is located in the JED district. So you can't even file for maybe that wouldn't apply to a conservation subdivision.
A conservation subdivision would probably be under an NCA. JED, in my understanding, a JED is strictly a commercial.
And what is an NCA exactly?
A new community authority, which is a way of raising taxes.
On property, and a JED is. Tax. One was
And one is on commercial and one is on residential. So it's a way of raising taxes for infrastructure development and provision of services from people who move into the district after it's established. You got to make them work.
I guess because I'm looking at mixed use, the concept would be that those get created. I mean, if mixed use zoning gets approved and goes all the way through, then the trustees will set up a JED in that whole area,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And then have some phrase in there that says this shall only apply to commercial areas. So you're not charging just unless maybe you do charge residents.
I think it's intended to be commercial. But yeah, you don't want a business to locate in an overlay, mixed use overlay district and not become part of the JED. I mean, that's a free ride. But, I think it's obvious at this point that Holly does work with Brochus as kind of a sounding board on how these things, some of these technical articles should be written. So if it sounds familiar, it's an echo of somebody else's.
Well, the 3210 extension of time, 3211 amendment of the development plan. Those are things that are addressed in the PRCD under section 1308.
Okay,
So these are in procedures, but 1308 is not identified as part of the procedures. So, that's something we have to give
Yeah.
consideration to.
Scott,
I guess coming
yeah.
back to you then, relating to that, since you didn't include it as part of the procedures, you included it under section 1308 as a separate section within the PRCD. Whereas Holly has included this in the procedures under Article 32.
Is it in 31? Just because I have that in front of me.
Oh, it's in 3113 and 3114. Or
But it's separate there. I mean,
So,
I think it's, anyway, I don't have 32, so I don't know, but. Well, extension of time is separated out, right?
so,
Yeah.
I mean, potentially, if we look at, Article 13, basically, what's in there identified as a separate section could become, I mean, the content is very similar. I haven't looked at the details, but it's just, in one case, it's part of the quote procedures. And in the other case, you have it separated out, but is there any reason that we couldn't include it in the procedures that you can think of, Scott?
Well,
And then it would come out of it wouldn't be a separate section within,
The only thing I like about it being pulled out is that it is kind of different from your procedures, before you get anything done. And it makes it real obvious that you don't have to go through, 30 some different kind of procedures to find the extension stuff.
and yeah, I see what you're saying. So that's something then for us to make a determination about how we would.
In 1308, it is in procedures. I mean,
Technically 1307 is the procedures and
well,
1308 is extensions or modifications.
I mean, isn't that just how it was? Because it used to be all one article.
I don't know.
So,
So it still is.
I mean, well, it is one article.
yeah,
but
I
we're
was
planning to
operating
make
under,
it-
that was when we were still operating and we made, I don't know. That it's in that article. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
it is a procedure to apply it. And then once it applies, then you're assuming that you're gonna do the plat, do the zoning certificate. But then 1308 is, however, if for some reason you're not ready to develop, you can extend it, you can modify it, you can, I mean, if it was pulled out, then obviously 1307, 1308 would be in the same article. Called.
so you would keep
1309.
them together, and 1309 as
Yeah.
well, administrative review.
I just considered in my mind, everything from 1307 to the end, that is the procedures.
yeah. And the way that it was written in the PRCD originally, it was written in terms of sections, it was set up exactly this same kind of way. The numbering is different, but
It felt like it was thrown on the end.
it's in there
So now
that
it's
way.
like-
I think it also goes along with our PCD. Our planned commercial development.
Yeah,
It's
that's
written
in
that way.
written that way. It is correct, yeah. It's in there that way. At the extension of time. So
And our
that'll be,
PRD might also be written that way.
yeah. I'm not sure how we'll address that, but that's a consideration. If we don't want it to remain a part of the procedures, then it has to go into the clustered into Article 33. This has to be there somewhere.
Yes,
Okay. Could we get through, Tom, with
I,
your,
I'm,
I mean, you got through your spreadsheet?
yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. All right, so we pretty much see that most of what's in Article 13. There is a comparable section, but we did find that there were the differences that we will have to consider as we start looking at Article 32. As to how we address that and what we do with fitting it in with that it matches up with PRCD language. So this, as we prepare for our hearing on the 22nd, each of us can have these two documents and we can do additional detailed analysis in preparation for the hearing. Now, insofar as the rest of Article 13, going away from the procedures, does Article 13, as Scott has prepared this draft now, address everything that was discussed when you had your meeting on April the 10th? Are there any issues that you identified that as you reviewed this?
I don't know.
So way back when we had the March draft of the Article 13 had a page at the very back about designing a conservation subdivision and design guidelines and stuff.
Those were just the changes. That was just some minor changes.
That was just
So,
showing you where I moved everything.
Okay, so that's in what, for the most part, 1305 now, or what?
Well, they all kind of dispersed to different sections. And so then that whole thing went away. And so you won't find it in that same order. I mean, a lot of it went to, that preservation section of preserving natural features.
Okay,
There were some removals that were repetitive.
just, okay,
But yeah, once it got clean, I was able to take that whole red section out. And everybody else.
We did.
Now we can do what we want.
There was some discussion I have in my notes about condominiums. I think you were taking that verbiage out as not a style, as an ownership.
Yeah, I did that.
But I guess I may not have the most current draft of your PRCD.
The most current draft, Scott, I'll just verify, but I think is 4/11/23. Correct?
Yeah, that's all.
Is that what it says up?
Then I
Up,
don't
up.
have that one printed. Are you on 313?
I'm on 313.
Same.
313. And then this one. This was printed on 5/6. So this may be more recent.
Yeah, we just changed condominiums to multifamily so that it would capture not an ownership issue, but just the way things look.
Mhm.
Because your permitted uses didn't have condominiums as a thing that's a permitted use, it just said common wall, single family, which could be condos.
Yeah.
Even single family detached can be condos.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to go back and through your emails and find the last update and get it in my binder.
I think Mike might have sent this
Yeah.
last one up to us.
I did. I sent this Article 13
with that date.
Yeah.
Okay,
4/11/23.
well,
Yeah, you're right, Joni. I did email this to you.
so this is as of 4/11/23.
And I don't remember exactly when I sent it to you, but
I'll find it. Okay,
it would have been, I think, last week, right? Or maybe
Or the week before.
the week before.
Yeah, it wasn't real long ago.
okay. All right.
After April 11th, I'm guessing.
Definitely after April 11th.
Definitely after that.
Pretty sure.
If you have trouble finding it, Tom, let me know. I'll send it to you again.
Gotcha.
All right. What about it, guys? Anything else? Let me then ask a question, because I'm sitting here thinking about it. Would it be appropriate to put off our next meeting with Scott to July and not have him come back for the workshop meeting in June? Because of what we're doing with regard to the Article 32.
When do we have to be finished with those in order to get them to the trustees for your whole backdate process?
May 3rd, we have to be done by May 30th,
Okay.
and your meeting is May 25th, I think.
And our follow-up
Last Thursday of the month.
is the 30th.
Yeah.
So
We're having
we'll
a
get
follow.
whatever your staff recommendations are and whatever the vote is at that meeting will be your recommendations to us for consideration at the meeting on the 30th.
Yeah, and last time I was able to send I think I sent them earlier, did I? Because the commission's just gonna vote the way they're just gonna vote for approval based on the comments that we make.
Yeah.
Unless somebody has something weird to say, but
And I think Mike Cannon and I were at the last meeting and
Okay.
we had a copy of the agenda and so we could see what.
and it was, yeah, that reminds me, it was good that you guys were there and we had a
Well,
little bit of a conversation about
Part of what I
why
was
are we growing anyway, which was an odd sort of.
Yeah.
But I thought that was good and we made sure that was in the minutes just to talk about why we do in general what we do as far as growth goes.
part of the reason that I want to ask that question or consider that is because depending on what happens with the trustees potentially will have taken action, but not necessarily before our workshop meeting scheduled in June. They would definitely have taken action before the workshop meeting in July.
Yeah.
So we'd know exactly where we stood with the clustered residential and with the.
Well, not exactly, because there is still the referendum process.
Well, there's a
and
referendum process, but we would know what the.
We would have a better idea, but
Yeah,
and
we would know
still-
what the trustees. had
still
done.
not safe.
But would Scott's input be invaluable to us at our hearing on May 30th? Or are your staff comments really what you would tell us? You know, I guess if we have anything in the staff comments that aren't clear to us.
I think,
bring
is
it
your
up then.
question more geared toward moving forward and what we do next? and less-
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whether we can potentially would we be in a position to move forward? Because potentially there's changes that might get made by,
Even if we don't move forward with 13 though, aren't we at some point going through
other,
other
yes,
things?
we are, absolutely.
So let's say we don't have a decision from the trustees, couldn't we still continue to work in June on some other article?
We could,
I think what you've already sent us something on 11 planned residential.
he did
district.
send us something on 11, I just saw it too. So.
Yeah, I just think as long as this process is, if we don't keep plugging away at it, we're never gonna get finished. We're probably never gonna get finished anyway, because
I mean, it'll be,
Google will put in another plant closer
be a
to us,
year or
and then
two down
sewer
the
will
road.
come, and it's all gonna go to pot anyway, so.
but. I don't know what will potentially need to be on the agenda for the 11th at this point. Is that, no, the 12th, maybe it is.
For
The
June,
workshop meeting. is
June 12th.
June 12th, yeah, it'd be the 12th. So,
Maybe play it by ear for now and just see what's on the agenda, but
we can
you may get a month off.
know for sure and make a decision about it at the meeting on June 5th. Because
Yeah.
we will have a regular meeting on the 5th. Okay, let's do it that way.
Because now I wonder. Well. Now you're gonna have a planned district that you want to be at least similar to these overlays as far as what's required in a development plan without.
We have so
Too
many
far.
carts and so many horses
know,
though,
that's
that I
what I'm-
feel like you can't get the horses in front of the cart, because there are 15 million carts and
Now they're
15 million
side by
horses.
side.
Yeah, they're all like, we're all just stuck in the stables doing nothing, so we gotta just hitch somebody up and go.
You're talking about the PRD.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
My concern is with what I sent you months ago. May need some retooling before we even talk about it.
Given
Just to
everything.
compare it to some of the things that you.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
in works. that
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna know.
Well, the PRD is not an overlay.
Right, but I mean, you're still gonna have a development plan that it's like. Maybe we missed something like. Something about existing features. It would be nice to have the same language in there,
Yeah.
even if it's the same thing, but to have it worded differently might be.
So
odd.
do we need to do more updates to straight zoning
Two copies. Yeah, that.
that aren't going to be as affected by these other changes?
Well, that would only be your FR1.
And AR1,
No. You did have it.
I even have it whole punch. I just haven't put it away.
We didn't go.
No.
Well,
I think we,
I think we started
May-
on conservation subdivision.
yeah, I think we did too. I think we may be seeing more interest eventually in our C2s and R1s and. But as soon as we get sewers, those might be.
I think definitely there's going to be a clear interest in those, without a doubt. And then, but the way that they're worded right now, some of the language in there, we may, well, that's why it would be important potentially to address them, to change and address the needs that are going to be there. Given that the sewers will be there and people may want to go to a straight district as opposed to using the overlay process. But the problem with the straight districts is may continue that we had Harlem Township has clearly developed the reputation of being referendum happy. So developers are we've got somebody that has been talking, it's not a developer, a person that wants to potentially make some changes. But they're afraid to do it. They're afraid to do it because they spend all this money to get their zoning changed, like Mr. Freitag.
Mhm.
And then they don't get it because the public puts a referendum on the ballot and blocks it. So how do we address that? What can we do, if anything?
Educate the public, but they don't want to be educated, so nothing.
It's really hard to educate people.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any ideas about that?
The best that we've done, I think, is when they had those 10 meetings, the strategic planning
Mhm.
committee. That people participated in those. We got a
They-
lot of public participation in
did.
that, but still,
It remains to be seen whether they would vote for or against it.
that's
at the
right. We won't
referendum.
know that. We'll see what.
Well, we're not gonna do 10 public meetings for something like the FITAX that was
Right.
No, we're
what
not.
we thought of as a very simple, straightforward, like, yeah, sure, here you go.
Yeah, those things will continue to haunt us, I
You just
think.
become interested in the process.
Okay.
He had a binder. Are we sure he didn't have?
I know, I was
Well,
gonna say. I feel like we
Okay, at
discussed
this
it.
point, we'll continue with the expectation that we'll have you come back for our workshop meeting in June. But Tom's question was, I think, and I don't know that you gave a response. If you did, I missed it. I'm sorry. When he was asking about whether the input that we're going to get from the review that you and your staff will be doing and for the regional planning meeting, addressing the procedures and the CCRD as well. Is there any reason that we should consider having you come back for our hearing on the 30th? No.
I mean,
Yeah, we'll have your input.
why on that one, but not before for previous ones. So
Okay.
it's probably better to just take the comments that, because I usually don't like to be, I mean, even though the commission isn't really that engaged, I don't like to then go off script afterwards because then I'm
Well,
adding
I
things that
understand,
weren't
sure.
said in the meeting and
Well, no, that would make
somebody
sense.
might not like that.
But you'll email us your comments and stuff before our meeting on the
Yeah.
30th.
I had already asked him about that. He thought there wouldn't be an issue
yeah.
time frame because it'll be Tuesday. And normally we get that information on the Monday after their hearing.
Yeah,
anyway.
but there's a Memorial Day.
That's the reason I'm saying it'll be Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
but-
you might have lots of vacation, people out on vacation.
Oh, if they're going on vacation, but
Yeah, Joni, I think Mike Cannon and I will probably be at the Regional Planning Committee meeting on the 25th.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we'll hand carry the,
Right, and I
agenda.
mean, everything that's gonna be in the minutes, except for the part where they vote,
yeah,
is available that afternoon
Yeah.
of the meeting.
Yeah.
So definitely by that 30th, but yeah, there is stuff going on that.
yeah.
that week.
and like your last, at the last regional meeting. The information came from staff.
Mhm.
We received it, Mike Cannon received it on the following Monday. And that's why I'm thinking that he would receive this on probably the Tuesday.
Yeah.
30th, even though the holiday's there.
Right.
Unless,
do
as
most of
Jody
that, we
pointed
review
out, unless
everything
people are
on
going on
Friday.
vacation. Then that would be a problem.
People do.
Well, but then again, just in addition to that, is there something that I could do in the meantime to do a better comparison? Not better, but more detailed? I mean, these are the high level. I don't know. I mean, if you enjoy doing this and you wanted to do it, you certainly could.
You
I
might
mean, if you
guess.
wanted me to do that and
That would be very helpful if you could do that.
I
Can you
mean,
do
would be
that and get
valid,
it to us by the 22nd?
I don't know about that. I think I would bring that
That's 2 weeks.
shortly before the next, that wouldn't
Well-
benefit anybody until the next time until the 12th,
Well,
unless you looked at it.
except for the fact that we're trying to get them to be the same as these new ones that we're pushing through, hopefully pushing through.
I think that what we're gonna be dealing with in terms of the timeline, though, is that on the 30th, there's gonna be, we have to get this to the trustees in order for them to set a hearing date and then hold their hearing and have that all completed by, I've forgotten the exact date now. What was it?
July.
July 9th or
Yeah.
something? And I mean, the July 9th becomes a deadline in terms of the referendum issue. Because they want to make sure it is done in time that if anybody's going to do a referendum, that they would have to have it submitted by July the 9th. Otherwise,
6 months for another election.
yeah, exactly.
the-
You have to
the-
wait
yeah.
till next year, 2024.
The deadline for filing is August 9th. And then they have 30 days to collect signatures.
So
they
back
have to
30 days
verify.
from July the 9th. See, the trustees need to act by June 10th. Something like that.
Well, what I would do is, because mixed use is already underway and CRCD is moving faster than PRCD, then that's what I would compare against.
Yes.
And so I think that's what would be helpful for us from you is looking at the CRCD procedures.
Which I don't think that's gonna miss anything that's in the PRCD. I think if anything, those are gonna be more complete, what's already moving through the process. And what we've discussed, while we tried to be complete, I think there may be some missing pieces. You know what I mean? I don't think what we've been doing is gonna add to these other parts that are already going through. Like, I think.
No, I see that point, but I mean, and so I think you're right that there probably isn't going to be as much work needed on the CRCD procedures. But if you've at least read through them and can say to us, you know,
Sure.
these look solid, then
Oh, yeah,
then we're
so
good.
that'll happen. I just talked about doing one of these. And using what's already moving through. And comparing it to this.
Yeah. I think somebody's gonna have to do it. If you want to do it, be my guest. You know, because I think we're gonna need that comparison to make sure we don't drop something.
Yeah.
That we feel is important simply because we ignore.
But we
just
have
didn't
to
see it.
have that not later than the
22nd.
30th.
Or, well, not later than the 30th for sure. Yeah. Be nice to have it for the first hearing on the
That's right,
22nd.
the 22nd.
But also if there's anything you see in the CRCD that you think is out of line. You know, that's gonna have an impact on our discussion during the hearing.
Yeah, we'll be considering both of them, Scott, when we have our hearing. Article 32 and Article 33. And of course, they were submitted. You have them. Oh, by the way, did you receive a copy in addition to the one that I emailed to you? You know, did it arrive? Okay, I have to then back through the zoning office and see what's going on there because that was supposed to have been sent to you.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
glad I
I-
sent it to you.
I got yours and I responded and said. I hadn't heard this yet, but this is fine. We'll just use this as the submission. Not a problem, but I thought since you said that I should have received it, you'd probably want to know that.
That's right, because it should have gone out on Tuesday or Wednesday last week. And then I sent it. I don't remember what day I emailed you, but I wanted to make sure you had it. That's why I sent it.
I thought Stephanie had mentioned that we received something, but then when I asked her, she said. No.
All right, well, thank you. So at this point, then for the 22nd, if you can get us anything, Scott, great. If not, we will certainly look forward to having the recommendations that will come back from staff through the regional planning process.
Hold on to that unless you have a copy still. Yeah,
Um,
you've got it.
You guys don't want us Scott, at this point, I think we've reached a point where we'll plan on meeting again on June the 12th. Unless we make a determination by June the 5th that that won't be. We'll know better what we should put on an agenda for you to consider by that time. and I'll submit that information to you, but you already started working on that. What is it, Article 11, Joni?
Yeah, PRD,
Yeah.
but yeah. you
The
said
next,
that's- you
the
said
next
it's a
areas
commercial.
that we would, I think, as Joni was pointing out, I think we, in addition to that Article 11, we could begin to take a look at the, which ones were these? Joni?
R1 and C.
Yeah. It is Article 12 is C1. Article 14 is C2. And then Article 15 is planned commercial. So which ones do you think, in addition to the Article 11 planned residential district, which Scott has already done some work on, as a group, which ones do you identify with that you think would be the one? Would planned commercial be a higher priority, you think, than neighborhood office district and neighborhood commercial district? Which one do we go to next is what I'm asking.
I don't know the code well enough to, or the resolution well enough to
These are straight
tell you.
districts.
Well, yeah,
The neighborhood office district and the neighborhood commercial district are straight. Well,
but
they're
I
all-
have not been a commission member for any of those being chosen as options, so I don't
Oh,
have a
they
good
were-
idea of what they all are.
Neither have I, they've never.
Oh, well, there
They've
we
never
go.
been used. We've
there's-
never had an application for one.
There are
Yeah.
some C1.
Yeah, I think
The
for
point is that
cottages.
for a one use, I mean, people can be pushed into planned districts, but when you only have 2 acres and you want to
Yeah.
rezone, sometimes it seems silly to do a planned district because you
Right.
really only
Yeah.
have one.
So
Countywide, people very rarely use the straight district, but I think they could if it's appropriate. Then I think
Yeah.
it's easier to know. You just got your setbacks and you got your use, and there's probably some details that need to be fleshed out in the resolution, but
should we,
I think 9, 12, 14, and 15 are all potential.
yeah, no, I forgot about 9, right? That's the R2 you mentioned. Yeah. So,
I would look at the R districts. The other abstract that I did has, I think, 11 different residential districts in it of one type or another, some mixed residential. I would go through that, but I think, just off the top of my head, I think the R1 is probably the next one on my hit list.
it's low density residential district, that's
It-
R2.
Basically, it's 1 acre with sewers.
Okay, well, let's do that then. We'll go to that one next. That would be Article 9. Okay. It's 9:27. I think it's about time for Brittany.
Virginia will make a motion that we adjourn.
Brittany will second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, no. Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
It's 9:28 and 24 seconds.
So we,
Birthday.
yeah, we finished at
Thank you, Scott.
9:28, so we finished early.
part of your evening pack. And that's what.
And first thing I'm going to do. we'll do-
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks. Good night, Brittany. Oh, I thought you were leaving.
Not rid of her yet.
Good night, Scott.
Still here.
Thank you.
Alrighty, then the 22nd is our next one, right?
The hearing, yes, and that's at 7:35, I think.